Are you looking to sell your dental practice with success, not stress? This is Paul, Dr. Nacho Goodman. Welcome to another episode of Talking Nachos. We have amazing guests on for you today that will help you increase your success, decrease stress, and reduce the number of times you feel like crying inside a day. The number one key performance indicator of all dentists out there. I was a dentist yesterday, probably cried inside 14 times. Pretty good day, pretty good Monday for a Monday. Before I bring up my guest, though, I want my team to share that we have a webinar coming up. A totally free Nacho TV show. Just text SELL to 215-543-6454. I'm going to give you 5 tips to avoid, 5 mistakes to avoid that will cost you $50,000 in selling your dental practice. To be part of these webinars or get the recording, because you might be at Pilates when we have the webinar, I totally get it. Text SELL to 215-543-6454. So I'm ready for my first guest today when my team is ready to bring them up. So we have the awesome Mary Fisher Day, fantastic sponsor, fantastic person. And Mary does so many awesome things for dentists to reduce crying inside. But one of the things we're going to talk about is an emergency exit strategy from selling your practice. I'm so glad to be talking about this, Mary. Tell us, if somebody's watching, what does an emergency exit strategy mean to you? Someone who helps dentists with transitions. What is an emergency exit strategy? Why would someone need it?
It's a plan to get out of your dental practice in case you become disabled or die. So
Gotcha.
To be able to sell it, protect the value of your practice and your legacy, and protect your family and your team at the same time. But
I like this. One of my things in life, Mary, I try not to annoy people. And I definitely, while this is a very poignant and some people will say morbid subject, I have dealt, as you have, over the pandemic with dentists being disabled and dying unexpectedly. One of them was my mentors, and I just saw that it's his birthday today. Still something that makes it so heartbreaking to me. 57-year-old dentist suddenly died, and his family had to sell his dental practice. And even under the best of circumstances, being prepared, it's tough. But what you're going to share with us is, tell us about this emergency exit strategy. There's something you hope you don't need, but you want to have it there in case emergency happens.
okay. In my opinion, it should start with at least a baseline practice valuation or appraisal. People call it different things.
Practice valuation.
You agree with that? All right. And then an emergency directive, which is a document that just tells you everything you need to know to sell the practice. Okay. Everything you need to know.
Let me just do, because this is such valuable stuff. You can put Mary's text code up for a minute. So first, a practice valuation. Okay. Just to give some value to our viewers and listeners, who values a practice? In your world, who have you seen people get this from? You've done it. Where can people go to? They can go to you to do evaluation. Tell us a little more about that.
Yeah, they can go to me. There are, I know there's a resource, I believe, through Nachos as well. Yeah. And I've used them before. And I can't remember the name.
I know you've been working with our CPAs, Lad and Duckett too, but this valuation, you do this. What is the investment in this? Let's share people like a menu. I was just at the dermatologist getting a skin check. Don't want to brag about how exciting my morning was, but it actually said menu of cosmetic services and what they cost. And I said, that was pretty nice. You know, maybe somebody wants to look up lip fillers. Maybe someone wants Botox, things like that. So in this valuation, what is the investment a dentist is going to make in value, getting their practice value?
Well, it's typically around $3,000.
$3,000.
$29.95. But if it's a specialty practice, it could be a little more.
And so that's
such
a reasonable cost. Yeah, but that's a reasonable cost. That's such a reasonable cost, Mary, to be able to find out the answer to the most important asset that dentists own, right? So it might not be, some dentists, Mary, own tons of Bitcoin, and they may have $8 million in Bitcoin, but that's not as important as their dental practice, a living, breathing asset that has a circus. I mean, circus people there every day, and putting together this dental circus, this dental team, if you're not there to do that because you're not alive or disabled, causes a lot of stress. So we got the valuation, and then tell me about point number 2.
Emergency exit strategy. Point number 2 would be an emergency directive. Okay.
Gotcha.
An emergency directive, like I said, and I have an emergency checklist that anyone can go on my website and click on the thing and download the checklist for free. It's an emergency directive checklist, or they can go on my website and purchase it, downloadable and fillable. But let me tell you a little more about it. You put everything in this document. So if something happens to you tomorrow and your attorney will have a copy, and whoever your executor is would have a copy, and they can take that information there and have your practice ready to list right then. Rather than being behind the 8 ball and the value of your practice falling 10 to 15% per week,
Now, Paul, a couple things. So you're doing so much great, awesome value. First, people can text Mary to this number. We'll put her website in the text code in addition to how to connect with her. What is your website, just in case people don't want to text me and want to go right to it?
Yeah, it's thedentalbusiness.com.
Dentalbusiness.com, thedentalbusiness.com. Now we did thedentalbusiness.com. We got the practice valuation, this emergency directive, but you just said something. I don't want to, like the TikTok, say speed on by. There's a TikTok trend, say, hold on, you just sped on by that. Tell us about what happens to a practice value each week it is not sold after a dentist is disabled or has died.
Well, it drops drastically, and 10 to 15% per week is the general of what's happening now.
Yeah.
And what I've seen happen so often that I think is heartbreaking is, and I hate to call them vultures, but that's how I feel about it. Vultures come in and pick the practice apart with all the goodwill is gone unless you have a way to protect it. And the emergency directive, emergency exit plan, that whole thing protects your goodwill and the value of your practice and your legacy.
I'll share, Mary, and I agree with you that there's a lot of operators in the transition space that don't operate with what we'll say the most kindness. But even for my brother and I, and someone said, hey, do you want to buy this practice where a dentist is disabled? The biggest problem, let's just use a disability like a shoulder injury, but they can never practice again. They can sit on the beach. That sounds relaxing, right? But if I say to that dentist, hey, Dr. Guac, I got a problem with paying the top dollar. I got a problem with paying you because I have no dentist, not only about the goodwill, I have no dentist to do the dentistry once I buy your practice. So these groups, even as my brother and I, we have this huge challenge of this wasn't planned for, right, Mary? The dentist didn't have a transition. So if they just stop with the handpiece one day, whoever buys that, Vulture, Kind Dentist, Group, DSO, they have an enormous challenge of getting someone to being a dentist in there, because most of our associates, not all of them, already have patients. So that to me is so key that you need to know. So we have the valuation, we have the checklist.
And that part is very true. When I say vultures, I mean the ones that come in and say, let me buy this piece of equipment, that piece of equipment.
Oh, yeah.
I'll buy your chart. And it happens really quickly. And it's not usually the kind dentist that does that.
Yeah, no, your point's great. Let me ask this question for our audience. You do this for a living. You do this all the time. Sometimes you're this person. Sometimes you're not this person. And I know you might get to this, but like, let's say you're sitting with your family and saying, okay, I got my valuation, practice $800,000. I got my emergency checklist. Who should they call to get interested buyers? Who is that usual person that they're calling? Is it more than one person? Is it a traditional broker? Who do you recommend they call to get buyers? Let's call it Omaha, Nebraska, right? You're in Omaha, Nebraska.
I think if you're ready to sell, you get a broker. Unless you know, I mean, you know how I feel. I think brokers work their butt off.
Yeah.
If they're a good broker, I think they're worth their weight in gold if they're a good broker.
Yeah.
So I think go with a broker. They're the quarterback of your practice transition team.
And they have a lot of relationships and they know a lot of fun secrets. Okay. So fun secrets to me are a dentist has been the dentist for 7 years and said to me, like they've done today, or said to Brandon, or even said to our next guest when she was on our team, next time you guys have a practice come up for sale, call me. I like my associateship, but I want to grow and I want to buy my own practice. So brokers know fun secrets that other people just don't know. And when people say to me, there should be an MLS listing for practices and it should be online, there's a lot of challenge there because there's such a confidential nature to the process. If my wife and I go walk down to Old City and look at a house, they want everybody to traipse through their house and buy it. You don't want that with your practice. It could destroy the goodwill. It'll totally make your team freak out. I mean, they'll freak out. And then also, the process of selling a practice is much longer than most people think. So with this emergency exit strategy, Mary, does having these things in place, let's say you are going to sell, right?
Mm-hmm.
tell me that process with you, or tell me you did the valuation, we did the emergency checklist, we talked about it losing value. What's the next part?
So you say you did your valuation 2 years ago. We would do a quick update. We've got most of it. We just need most recent tax returns to update the valuation, get it listed, use the resources, just like you would do that we already have potential buyers we have in our pockets always. And just go from there. Start marketing it. Of course, a lot of times if I know that I've got potential purchasers, I won't start marketing it right then.
Yeah, because you go to friendly connections, you go to friendly behind the scenes connections. Nacho team, put up our text job link. How about this, Mary? Let's say I say, hey, Mary, I'll buy this practice. I'll buy your practice. But it's my brother and I. We need 3 months to get ourselves together.
Exactly.
You know, we have Dentist Job Connect. Who's babysitting this practice for those 3 months? Because they do need a dentist. They're babysitting it.
Well, hopefully you're going to make it so that you can do a role reversal with the seller in that
Gotcha.
situation. If that's not the case, then you would have to have a locum tenens, someone to fill in for you. But I think doing a role reversal for 3 months is a good way to help with your goodwill, and plus you keep the continuity and you have somebody in there doing dentistry.
And I would just
work.
Yeah, I want to give us a plug, because you can text job or hire to be connected with these services. Because here's the thing, Mary, I've been on the other side of these conversations with spouses who've lost someone. And unfortunately, sometimes their frugality causes problems. Because I say, Mrs. Jones, I know this is the most devastating thing ever, but your husband's practice is a living, breathing thing. You must get a dentist in there as soon as possible to check hygiene and do emergencies and stabilize the team, and just offer $1,000 a day for 3 days a week. And I will find you somebody. And I say this, Mary, just offer it for 8 weeks. Like, just do 8 weeks. Like, find a dentist, say, hey, you want to make 24 grand, show up at this practice, check hygiene, do emergencies. But unfortunately, Mary, and this is where you come in, the spouses are worried about finances. The spouses get concerned and they wind up losing so much more money. Have you seen that when a practice sits before the seller takes over?
I've seen it so many times, and they lose team members, which are important, and patients going out the door left and right. At a certain point, all you have left is equipment, which we all know is the value.
One of the things that's hard is, I used to work at a restaurant, and the manager would say this, and it would drive me crazy. So they'd say, if you have time for leaning, there's time for cleaning. So if we're all sitting around, but what that meant was restaurant servers are there to serve customers, and we kind of don't know what to do when there's no customers. Dental teams put this circus, this Hamilton play on every day. The worst things happen to them. The dentist is disabled or not alive. If they show up at that practice, there's not going to be anything for them to do, and they're going to leave and look for a new job. Even if they're getting paid, even if they have payroll protection. Imagine being inside a dental office with no patients. It might sound nice for a day, but once it's a couple weeks, the hygienist, the assistants, the front desk, they're going to feel weird. There's a huge emotional link. So if you can get a temporary dentist to just come in and make it feel like it's running, that's, in my experience as a broker, that's so valuable.
Well, and they feel needed then, because they're helping protect the practice, and they've got a reason to stay on, rather than fearing that we need to get out of here and I need to find my job so I can control who my next boss is going to be, because they know they don't have control over who's purchasing the practice.
Yeah, so true. Bring up Mary's text. So my last question for you, Mary, is you have so much value. Help me. I am going to be doing a show about 5 ways to not cost yourself $50,000 if you're going to sell your dental practice in the next 5 years. So let's end on a happier note. Let's end that someone's 52 right now watching this and saying, I want to hang up the handpiece at 57. I want to transition at 57. I'm ready to do anything. I could market. We're going to have a new patient thing on next. I could get new technology. I could hire staff. I could fire staff. I could reduce my overhead. I can increase maybe. What is one thing you would tell a dentist who wants to sell in the next 5 years that they could do now to make their practice more attractive and profitable?
Yeah, have a practice analysis of some sort from someone, and find out, make sure that the practice is healthy. Make sure your overhead's in line. Make sure your accounts receivable and delinquent accounts and outstanding insurance is all where it needs to be. Because bottom line is, no matter how cute your practice is, anything, if that stuff's not in order, the value of your practice is not going to be what you want it to be.
It's really valuable, and because I'll leave you this. When my dad passed away suddenly, we sold our childhood home, and everybody was coming around to see the home. They acted like they loved it, right? Oh, this is a great school district. This is a wonderful yard. But when that buyer went to finish buying, they acted like the house was going to fall apart, and they kept finding problems. So this happens with practices too. People come and say, this is my dream. Next thing you go, why is the overhead so high? What's the supplies here? So if you can get that in order first, Mary, so valuable. So glad we got extra time. I'm excited to talk to our next guest. Thanks for being you, Mary. You're really awesome.
Have a good day.
So as we move on in the circle of dentistry life, please remember, text cell, put that up one more time, to 215-543-6454. If you're looking to sell your practice in the next 5 years, or if you're looking to buy one, because I want to give you a quick tip, buyers. Selling a practice is the opposite of buying. So why you would want to tune into the show if you're looking to buy a practice in the next 5 years is you're going to get the answers to the test, what we love, the answers to the test of things you need to know during this process.